Okay, now I'm going to mix some of this color right here. Essentially going to remix what I have on here, but I'm going to mix a lot of paint and make it, so I can put it on somewhat thick and create what I like to call a mother pile. I didn't come up with that. Dan Gerhardt's, that's actually his term. Where you can mix into that pile to make slight adjustments to it in color temperature and even slight value shifts to give this area in here more interest, okay? So I'm going to take some Venetian red. Take a lot of Venetian red. I should have put more on my palette. And some cerulean blue. It's going to be basically our two main colors for this. If you watch the monthly demo, it took me a while to come up with this, but then I realized that, hey, I can pretty much get what I need in here with, with those two colors and maybe a little bit of white. Sometimes you'll spend a bunch of time mixing like 3 or 4 colors together, and then you find out that just mixing 2 different colors will get you the same thing, which is a heck of a lot easier if you ask me. I'm going to stick some of that on there. Okay, now notice that when I stick that on there, that's way too dark in value. All right. I'm just going to wipe that off. So I need to go with some white. No amount of mixing cerulean and Venetian is going to solve the value problem. Okay, so I got to go with some white. And just need to make sure that as I add this white, it's not going to get too cool. So white's going to lighten our value. All right, let's stick some of that on there. It's closer, but if you look at that, all right, we're still a little too dark in value, and we're still slightly too warm and too intense. All right, which is kind of good news, because if it's too warm, it means that I can continue to just add white to it and not really mess it up, because white's going to keep lightening the value and cooling it as well. Remember, white is a cool color. Technically, it's not a color, but we'll call it that to make it easy. All right, let's try that. It's not bad. I still think it's a bit intense. I go with a little more white. And then I'm going to go back in and just add a bit more cerulean. The cerulean is going to knock down that intensity and neutralize this a bit more. Stick some of that on there. That's pretty good. So once again, basically all we have here is just Venetian, cerulean, and white. And I have a nice thick pile of paint to work with. Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of fun now with this. In this shadow area, now we have our main shape in there. We have the big shape done. And hopefully for your big shape, it has that feeling of aerial perspective. All right? We have our main color and our main value in there. But if we leave it like this, it can be rather dull and boring. So we have our foundation laid. Now let's go in and give some interest to that foundation. We can go a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler with this. And I'm going to go just slightly warmer, I think. I'm going to take a bit of ochre and mix that into my mother pile. Just off to the side. So I'm going to borrow some paint from the mother pile, if you will, and just mix it a little bit off to the side. And it really doesn't change the value. because yellow ochre is, you know, when I just a quick glance, is almost pretty much the exact same value as this pile that we have mixed right here. Okay, so I'm going to go over and I'm probably going to start, now let's put some right here. And you'll notice just a color shift, but you're not going to notice a value shift. I don't want to do a lot of this, but I want to do some. Okay, so we have that, we have some of that down. That gives us a little bit of variety, okay, in our color temperature. Now, as we start to come from the top of this butte down to the bottom here, what you start to have happen is this bottom area in here will start to lighten up just a little bit. It'll start to catch some lighter, warmer areas because of the reflected light bouncing off of this slanted hill up into this area, okay? So I'm going to add just a little more ochre, but remember we said yellow ochre is pretty much the same value as what we already have there. So we have to lighten the value. So I'm going to grab a little bit of titanium white, but titanium white is going to cool it, and we don't really want it to go cool. So I can add a little more ochre to make up for that. So we're adding just a bit more, basically just adding a little more ochre and white this time instead of just straight yellow ochre. And I'm going to go in and test this out. Now I don't want this to be a lot lighter than what's already there. But as you can see, just a little shift, a slight shift in value. And if you find you went too much, just grab some of the mother color and some ochre and just mix back down into that lighter value like that. And then put some of that on there. And this is really important that you test this from further back. All right, so what I will do a lot of times is I'll lay a stroke or two down and I'll step back and I'll see how does it look. Now mine seems a little jumpy right now. So I'm going to grab some of the original color and maybe just come back over very gently with that over those strokes. I'm not going to push down real hard, but just apply a little bit of pressure to them to slightly darken them.
Yeah, so a question on that is, your recommendation would be to possibly go a little lighter and then do the little darker shift over it so that you get those multiple shifts of color built in rather than just trying to hit the final color one.
It doesn't really matter. The reason why I went a little darker and went back over it is because I felt my initial stroke was just a little too light. Now, if it was really light, I'd probably just scrape it out with a palette knife and go back to the drawing board. Okay, so now let's go the opposite. Let's add a little bit of cool accents to this. Let's take some of our mother color, bring it over here, and just to keep it simple, I'm going to add a little bit of cerulean and white to this. And it's going to give a fairly neutral tone as well. Now the cerulean's going to want to darken this, so I'm going to add, white to somewhat neutralize that. Notice how it gives me a lot more of a grayish look, as you can see right there. Let's put a little bit of that on there and see what happens. It's actually very nice. Thanks for watching this short clip from my most recent live oil painting session. Our group, Oil Painting at Home, meets online 4 times a month through Zoom, and we work on an oil painting together from start to finish. Members of the group interact not only with me, but with each other while we paint, and they get live feedback on their work. Each session is recorded, which allows members to catch up on anything they may have missed or would like to see again. I also record myself doing the same painting privately in my studio with full commentary. This lets students see how I do the same painting from start to finish in just 1 or 2 sessions using a wet-on-wet technique. We also meet together for live Q&A and critique sessions. And not only that, but members get immediate access to all past painting sessions so they can learn how to paint a wide variety of subject matter at no additional cost. This amounts to hundreds of hours of instruction. Access to oil painting at home's live sessions are very limited and turnover is very low. So if you've not done so yet, sign up on the priority list by clicking on the link in the description below. Once a space becomes open, I'll let you know.